My name is Tom Delaney, and I thought I knew my wife. Turns out I knew jack shit. It started on a Tuesday morning in November, the kind of gray, miserable day that makes you wonder why anyone ever settled in Cleveland. I was sitting in my cramped office at Midwest Insurance Adjusters, staring at a claim form for a kitchen fire that somehow involved a ferret and 3 bottles of cooking wine, when my secretary knocked. "Tom? This came for you. No return address." The manila envelope felt heavy in my hands. My name was typed on a label, nothing else. Inside the office, with its flickering fluorescent lights and the smell of burnt coffee, I opened it. The first photo hit me like a punch to the gut. Rachel, my wife of 12 years, wearing black latex that left nothing to the imagination. She was serving drinks to a group of men in suits, but the way she was positioned, the look on her face, this wasn't waitressing. The second photo was worse. Rachel with her arms around a tall, muscled guy with graying temples and a cocky smile. They were kissing, and his hands were places that should have been off-limits to anyone but me. The third photo made me sit down hard. Rachel, the same guy, and 2 other couples in what looked like a private room. The timestamp showed last Saturday, the night she told me she was working late at the HR conference. A handwritten note was clipped to the back. "You deserve to know. A friend." I stared at the photos for a long time, my coffee growing cold. Rachel, who complained when I left my socks on the bedroom floor. Rachel, who made me feel guilty for buying a 6-pack of beer. Rachel, who hadn't touched me in months because she was too tired from work. The letterhead on one photo showed Linton Private Club. I'd heard whispers about the place, an upscale venue that catered to people with expensive tastes and flexible morals, the kind of place where married people went to pretend they weren't. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. "Working late again tonight. Don't wait up. Love you. Love you. Right." I grabbed my jacket and headed for Murphy's Tavern, where my friend Pete worked behind the bar. If anyone knew the dirt on Linton Club, it would be Pete. The guy collected gossip like some people collected baseball cards. Murphy's was dark and comfortable, with the kind of atmosphere that made you want to tell your troubles to a stranger. Pete looked up when I walked in, his weathered face creasing into a grin. "Tom? Little early for you, isn't it? What's eating you? You look like someone ran over your dog." "I need information, Pete. About Linton Club." Pete's expression shifted, became more serious. He poured me a whiskey without asking. "That's not a place decent people talk about, Tom. What's your interest?" I showed him the photos. Pete whistled low. "Jesus, Tom. That's Rachel? Your Rachel?" Apparently not my Rachel anymore. I knocked back the whiskey. "What do you know about this place?" "It's a swingers club, but high-end. Membership costs more than most people make in a year. They've got rooms, entertainment, and from what I hear, some of the members pay good money for special services." Pete refilled my glass. "The guy she's with, that's Sean Miller. He manages the place. Used to box semi-pro before he figured out there was more money in managing other people's fantasies." "How long has this been going on?" "I can't say for sure, but I've heard Rachel's name mentioned a few times over the past couple months. Word is, she's not just a customer, she's recruiting new members, getting a commission for every couple she brings in." The whiskey burned, but not as much as the betrayal. She's been lying to me for months. Question is, what are you going to do about it? I studied the photos again. Rachel looked happy in them, happier than she'd looked with me in years. The rage was building in my chest, but underneath it was something colder, something that wanted payback. "I'm going to give her exactly what she deserves," I said. The next morning, I called in sick to work and drove to the office of Marcy Chen, a private investigator Pete had recommended. Her office was in a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax preparation service, but Pete assured me she was the real deal, a former cop who'd left the force after a corruption scandal that wasn't her fault. Marcy was in her 50s, with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. She listened to my story without judgment, occasionally nodding as she took notes. "Standard cheating spouse case," she said when I finished. "My rate is $200 a day plus expenses. I'll need a retainer of 1,000. "How long will it take?" "If she's as active as you say, probably a week, maybe less." Marcy leaned back in her chair. "Fair warning. Sometimes people don't like what I find. You sure you want to go down this road?" "I'm sure." "All right. I'll start tonight. Don't change your routine. Don't confront her. Don't do anything that might tip her off. Can you handle that?" I nodded, though part of me wanted to drive home and have it out with Rachel right then. But I needed proof. Real proof that would stand up in divorce court. That evening, I sat in my living room pretending to watch television while Rachel got ready for another late night at the office. She spent an hour in the bathroom, doing her hair and makeup with more care than she'd shown for our anniversary. Dinner. "You look nice," I said when she came downstairs. She barely glanced at me. "It's a professional event. I need to look professional. Professional. Right." Oh, after she left, I called Pete. "Want to take a ride?" "Where to?" "Linton Club. I want to see this place for myself." "Tom, that's not a good idea. What if Rachel sees you?" "She won't. I just want to look." Pete sighed. "All right, but we're not going inside? And if this goes sideways, I was never there." Linton Club was housed in a converted warehouse in the Flats, Cleveland's entertainment district. From the outside, it looked respectable. Valet parking, well-dressed people going in and out, subtle lighting, the kind of place that could have been a high-end restaurant or corporate event space. We parked across the street and watched. Around 10 o'clock, I saw Rachel's car pull up. She handed the keys to the valet like she owned the place, then walked inside wearing a dress I'd never seen before, something short and tight that probably cost more than our monthly grocery budget. "There she is," I muttered. "Tom, let's go. You've seen enough." But I hadn't. I needed to see more. I needed to understand how my wife had become someone I didn't recognize. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcy. "Got some interesting footage. Meet me tomorrow at 2 p.m. The next day, Marcy's office felt smaller as she showed me the video on her laptop. Rachel and Sean in the club's parking lot, talking animatedly. Rachel counting a stack of cash. Rachel leading a nervous-looking couple inside, her hand on the woman's arm in a gesture that was both reassuring and possessive. "She's definitely working there," Marcy said. "And not just as entertainment. She's recruiting, like your friend said. I followed her to lunch yesterday. She met with 3 different couples, showed them brochures, talked them through what looked like membership packages." "How much money are we talking about?" "Hard to say, but based on what I observed, she's probably pulling in $2,000 to $3,000 a month, cash. Maybe more. $3,000 a month? No wonder she'd been so relaxed about our finances lately. I'd been busting my ass handling insurance claims while she was building a side business I knew nothing about." "There's more," Marcy said. "She's not just recruiting couples. She's performing. I have video, but Tom, you really don't want to see it. Show me." The video was grainy, shot through a window, but clear enough. Rachel on a small stage, moving to music I couldn't hear, while a crowd of people watched and cheered. She looked confident, in control. She looked like she was having the time of her life. "That's enough," I said. Marcy closed the laptop. "I'm sorry, Tom. I know this isn't easy. What would you do? If this was your spouse?" Marcy was quiet for a moment. "I'd make sure I had everything I needed for the divorce, and then I'd make sure they knew exactly how I felt about being lied to." That night, Rachel came home late again, slipping into bed beside me like nothing had happened. I lay there in the dark, listening to her breathe, planning my next move. I decided to see it for myself. Saturday night, Pete reluctantly agreed to help me get into Linton Club. His cousin Rico worked there as a DJ and owed Pete a favor from way back. Rico could get us in through the service entrance during his shift. "This is insane," Pete muttered as we walked through the club's kitchen. "If they catch us, we're both screwed." Rico met us by the service elevator, a thin guy with nervous eyes and too many tattoos. "You've got maybe 20 minutes before someone notices you don't belong here. Stay in the back, keep your heads down, and don't touch anything." The main floor of Linton Club was nothing like I'd expected. It was elegant, sophisticated, leather furniture, dim lighting, soft jazz playing in the background. People in expensive clothes mingled with drinks, talking and laughing like this was any other social club. Then I saw the stairs leading to the second floor, and the discreet signs indicating private rooms. "There," Pete whispered, pointing toward a small stage area. Rachel was there, but she wasn't performing. She was working the room, talking to couples, playing the role of hostess and sales representative. She wore a black dress that hugged every curve, and she moved with a confidence I hadn't seen in years. I watched her approach a middle-aged couple who looked uncomfortable and out of place. Within minutes, she had them laughing, relaxed, nodding along to whatever pitch she was giving them. She handed them a brochure and led them toward the stairs. "She's good at this," Pete said quietly. That's when Sean Miller appeared, sliding up behind Rachel and putting his hands on her waist like he owned her. She leaned back against him, and they shared a look that made my stomach turn. Sean whispered something in her ear that made her laugh. Then he announced to the room, "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special treat tonight. Rachel's going to show our new friends what Linton Club is really about." The crowd applauded as Rachel took the stage. Music started, something slow and sultry, and she began to move. But this wasn't a strip show. This was seduction, pure and simple. She was selling a fantasy, and everyone in the room was buying it. I'd seen enough. More than enough. I pushed through the crowd toward the stage, ignoring Pete's urgent whispers behind me. Rachel was in the middle of her routine when she saw me. Her face went white. "Tom? What am I doing here?" I pulled out the photos and threw them on the stage. "I think the better question is, what are you doing here, Rachel?" The music stopped. The crowd went silent. Sean Miller stepped forward, his face dark with anger. "You need to leave, now." "I need to leave?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "My wife is up there selling herself to strangers, and I need to leave?" Rachel climbed down from the stage, her hands shaking. "Tom, please?" "Let me explain." "Explain what?" "How you've been lying to me for months? How you've been taking money to recruit people for this place? How you've been screwing this asshole behind my back?" Sean stepped between us. "That's enough." "Security." Two large men in suits started toward us, but I wasn't finished. "You want to know the best part?" I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. She told me she was working late at HR conferences. Professional development, she called it. Guess she wasn't lying about the development part. Rachel's face crumpled. "Tom, please don't do this here." "Why not? This is where you do everything else." Sean grabbed my arm. "Time to go, buddy." I shook him off. "Don't touch me. And don't call me buddy. I'm not the one screwing another man's wife." The security guards reached us then, and I didn't resist as they escorted me toward the door. But as we passed the crowd of shocked faces, I called out, "Show's over, folks. The star of the evening is married, by the way. Hope that makes it more exciting for you." Outside, Pete was waiting by his car, looking pale. "Jesus Christ, Tom. That was brutal. It was necessary. What are you going to do now?" I looked back at the club, where my wife was probably trying to explain away the scene I'd just caused. "Now I'm going to make sure she gets exactly what she deserves." The next morning, Rachel tried to act like nothing had happened. She made coffee, read the newspaper, asked if I wanted eggs for breakfast. The normalcy of it was more infuriating than any argument would have been. "We need to talk," I said. "I know." She didn't look up from the paper. "But not now." "I have to get to work." "Work? Which job? The HR one or the other one?" She finally met my eyes. "Tom, you don't understand what you saw last night." "I understand perfectly. I understand that my wife has been living a double life for months. I understand that she's been taking money to recruit people for a sex club. I understand that she's been having an affair with Sean Miller." Rachel's composure cracked slightly. "It's not what you think." "Then explain it to me." She was quiet for a long moment. "We needed the money, Tom. Your job, my job, we're barely making ends meet. When Jess told me about Linton Club, I thought maybe I could make some extra money on the side. It was supposed to be temporary. Jess, Rachel's best friend, who'd been acting strange around me lately. Jess got you into this?" "She thought I'd be good at it." And I was. I am. "Tom, I've made more money in the past 3 months than I make in 6 months at the office." "And Sean?" Rachel looked away. "That just happened. It wasn't planned." "But it happened." "Yes." I poured myself coffee with steady hands, surprised by how calm I felt. "I want a divorce." "Tom, no. We can work this out. I'll quit the club. I'll end things with Sean. We can go to counseling." "I don't want to work it out. I want you out of my house." "It's my house, too." "Not for long." That afternoon, I met with a divorce lawyer named Patricia Webb. She was in her 60s, with steel gray hair and a reputation for being ruthless in family court. "Do you have documentation of the affair?" she asked after I'd told her the story. I showed her Marcy's photos and videos, plus witness testimony, and evidence that she's been hiding income. Patricia studied the materials. "This is good. Very good. In Ohio, adultery doesn't affect property division, but it can impact alimony, and the hidden income is a big problem for her." "What are my options?" "A file for divorce on grounds of adultery, demand full financial disclosure. If she's been hiding assets, the court won't look favorably on that." Patricia leaned back in her chair. "But Tom, are you sure you want to go nuclear?" "Once we file these papers, there's no going back." "I'm sure." "All right, I'll have the papers drawn up by tomorrow." That evening, Rachel tried a different approach. She cooked my favorite dinner, opened a bottle of wine, wore the dress I'd bought her for our anniversary. "I know you're angry," she said as we sat at the dining room table. "You have every right to be. But Tom, we've been together for 12 years. Doesn't that count for something?" "It did. Until you threw it away." "I made a mistake. People make mistakes." This wasn't a mistake, Rachel. Mistakes are accidental. This was a choice, hundreds of choices, over months. She reached across the table for my hand. I choose you, Tom. I choose our marriage. I pulled my hand away. Too late. The next morning, Patricia's process server showed up at Rachel's office to deliver the divorce papers. I wasn't there to see it, but Jess called me that afternoon, furious. How could you do this to her? Jess demanded. She's devastated. She should have thought of that before she decided to become a professional homewrecker. It's not like that. You don't understand what she's been going through. Enlighten me. She felt trapped, Tom. You two were struggling financially, and she saw an opportunity to help. Yes, she made some bad choices, but she was trying to save your marriage, not destroy it. By screwing another man? That wasn't supposed to happen. But it did happen, repeatedly. Jess was quiet for a moment. She loves you, Tom. She loves the money more. After I hung up, I sat in my office thinking about Jess's call. Something about it bothered me, but I couldn't put my finger on what. That evening, Rachel was waiting for me when I got home. She'd been crying, and she looked smaller somehow, diminished. The divorce papers? She said. You got them. Tom, please. I know you're hurt, but this is extreme. We can work through this. No, we can't. Why not? Because of Sean? I'll end it. I already have. It's not just about Sean. It's about the lying. It's about the fact that you've been living a completely different life and didn't think I deserved to know about it. I was protecting you. You were protecting yourself. Rachel stood up, and for the first time, I saw anger in her eyes instead of tears. Fine. You want a divorce? You'll get a divorce. But don't think this is going to be easy. I'm not going to just roll over and let you take everything. I'm not trying to take everything. I just want out. We'll see about that. After she left for work the next morning, I started packing. If she wanted to play hardball, I'd give her hardball, but I'd do it on my terms. 2 weeks later, I was living in a furnished apartment across town, and the divorce was getting ugly. Rachel had hired her own lawyer, and they were fighting every single item in the settlement. She wanted alimony, half the house, half my pension, everything she could get. But I had an ace up my sleeve. Marcy had continued her investigation even after I'd moved out. What she'd found was bigger than just an affair and some hidden income. Rachel and Sean weren't just running a side business, they were running a scam. Look at this, Marcy said, spreading documents across her desk. Rachel's been recruiting couples by promising them one thing and delivering another. She tells them it's an upscale social club with optional adult activities. But once they pay the membership fee, which is $5,000 by the way, they find out the optional activities aren't so optional. What do you mean? I mean, she's basically running a bait-and-switch operation. Get people to pay for membership, then pressure them into participating in activities they didn't sign up for. And if they complain or want their money back, Sean and his security team make it clear that's not an option. I studied the documents. Complaints to the Better Business Bureau, angry emails from former members, even a police report that had been filed and then mysteriously dropped. How many people are we talking about? At least 20 couples over the past 6 months. That's $200,000 in membership fees alone, plus whatever they're making from the ongoing activities. And Rachel's getting a cut of all of this? 20% of every membership she brings in, plus her performance fees. Tom, your wife has made over $40,000 in the past 6 months and hasn't reported a dime of it to the IRS. $40,000. While I'd been working overtime and worrying about our mortgage payments, Rachel had been sitting on enough money to solve all our problems. There's more, Marcy continued. I've been in touch with some of the couples who got scammed. They're angry and they're scared. Sean Miller has a reputation for making problems disappear, if you know what I mean. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that if these people knew they weren't alone, if they knew there were others who'd been through the same thing, they might be willing to come forward. And if they came forward all at once in a very public way, it might be hard for Sean and Rachel to make all of them disappear. I thought about it. Rachel had made her choice when she decided to lie to me for months. She'd made her choice when she decided to take money from people who trusted her. She'd made her choice when she decided to destroy our marriage for a quick buck. Now it was time for her to live with the consequences. What do you need from me? Nothing. Just stay out of the way and let me work. 3 days later, everything came together at once. I was at work when my phone started buzzing with text messages. The first was from Pete. Turn on Channel 5, now. I found a television in the break room and switched to the local news. A reporter was standing outside Linton Club with a group of angry-looking couples behind her. What started as complaints about a private club has turned into allegations of fraud and extortion. These couples say they were promised one thing and delivered another, and when they tried to get their money back, they were threatened. The camera panned to show one of the couples Marcy had been in contact with. "Hey, we paid $5,000 for what we thought was a social club," the woman said. "Instead, we were pressured into activities we never agreed to, and when we said we wanted to leave, they made it clear that wasn't an option." Another couple stepped forward. "The woman who recruited us, Rachel Delaney, told us this was a respectable establishment for couples looking to meet other couples. She never mentioned that participation in sexual activities was essentially mandatory." My phone rang. It was Patricia, my lawyer. "Tom, are you watching the news?" "Yeah, this is good for us. Very good. If Rachel's involved in fraud, it changes everything about the divorce settlement." "How so?" "Well, for starters, any money she made from illegal activities isn't considered marital property, and if she's charged with a crime, her credibility in court goes out the window." I watched as the reporter interviewed more couples, each telling similar stories of being misled and threatened. In the background, I could see police cars pulling up to the club. My phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. "We need to talk." "This is all a misunderstanding." I deleted the message without responding. That evening, there was a knock at my apartment door. I opened it to find Jess standing in the hallway, looking furious. "You did this," she said, pushing past me into the apartment. "You destroyed her life." "I didn't do anything. Rachel destroyed her own life when she decided to become a criminal." "She's not a criminal." "She was trying to help people have a good time by lying to them and taking their money." Jess turned to face me, and there was something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Something desperate and angry and a little bit crazy. "You never deserved her," she said quietly. "Rachel is beautiful and smart and talented, and you never appreciated her. You took her for granted." "Jess, what are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact that she wasted 12 years of her life on a man who couldn't see what he had." Something clicked in my mind. "You sent me the photos." Jess went very still. "What?" "The anonymous envelope. You sent it." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do. You were in love with Rachel, and you couldn't stand watching her waste her life with me. So you got her involved with the club, thinking it would either break us up or I'd find out and leave her. Either way, you'd have a shot with her." Jess's face crumpled. "You don't understand. She's special. She deserves better than this life, better than you. So you destroyed her marriage and got her involved with criminals? That's your idea of helping?" I thought if she saw what else was out there, she'd realize." "You thought wrong." Jess started crying then, ugly sobs that shook her whole body. "I never meant for it to go this far. I never meant for her to get in trouble. But she did, and now she's going to pay for it." After Jess left, I sat in my apartment thinking about how everything had spiraled out of control. Rachel had made her choices, but she'd been manipulated by someone she trusted. It didn't excuse what she'd done, but it explained it. My phone rang. It was Rachel. "Tom, please. I need to see you." "I don't think that's a good idea." "Please, just for a few minutes. There's something you need to know." Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop downtown. She was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with her head down. She looked like she'd aged 5 years in the past week. "Thank you for coming," she said when I sat down. "What do you want, Rachel?" "I want to tell you the truth." All of it. For the next hour, she told me everything. How Jess had convinced her that I was planning to leave her anyway. How Jess had introduced her to Sean and convinced her that making money at the club was the only way to save our marriage. How the whole thing had spiraled out of control until she was in too deep to get out. "I know you don't believe me," she said when she finished. "I know you think I'm just trying to save myself. But Tom, I swear to you, I never meant for any of this to happen. It doesn't matter what you meant. It matters what you did. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so, so sorry." I looked at her across the table. This woman I'd been married to for 12 years, who I'd thought I knew completely. What happens now? "My lawyer thinks I might be able to make a deal with the prosecutor, testify against Sean in exchange for reduced charges. And us?" Rachel was quiet for a long moment. "I think we both know there is no us anymore." "Yeah, I think we do." 6 months later, the whole thing was over. Rachel pled guilty to fraud and conspiracy charges and got 2 years probation and community service. Sean Miller got 5 years in federal prison. Linton Club was shut down permanently, and the victims got most of their money back. The divorce was finalized in March. Rachel didn't get alimony, and she had to give up her claim to half the house since the court determined that her illegal activities had damaged our marriage beyond repair. She moved back in with her parents and took a job at a call center. Jess disappeared entirely. Someone said she'd moved to California, but I didn't really care. I kept the house and got a promotion at work. Started dating a woman named Sarah, who worked at the library and had never heard of Linton Club. Life was quiet, predictable, and honest. Everything my marriage to Rachel hadn't been. But the real satisfaction came from something else entirely. Remember those couples who'd been scammed by Rachel and Sean? The ones who came forward on the news? Well, it turned out that several of them were lawyers, and they decided to file a class action lawsuit against everyone involved in the Linton Club operation, including Rachel. The lawsuit was for damages, emotional distress, and punitive damages. The lawyers were very thorough in their investigation, and they discovered that Rachel had personally recruited over 30 couples, bringing in more than $60,000 in membership fees. The court ordered her to pay full restitution plus damages. Rachel called me when she got the papers, crying and begging me to help her. "Tom, please? I don't have that kind of money. They're going to garnish my wages for the next 10 years. You should have thought of that before you decided to become a con artist. I made a mistake. Haven't I paid enough?" "No," I said. "You haven't." And that was the truth. Rachel had spent months lying to me, cheating on me, and stealing from innocent people. She destroyed our marriage and ruined lives, all for money. Now she was going to spend the next decade working at a call center, living with her parents, and watching every penny she made get taken away to pay back the people she'd hurt. It was perfect justice. The final touch came a year later, when I got a wedding invitation in the mail. Sarah and I had been talking about marriage, and I was ready to take that step. But first, I had one last thing to do. I drove to the call center where Rachel worked and waited in the parking lot until her shift ended. When she came out, she looked tired and older, worn down by a year of consequences. "Tom, what are you doing here?" I handed her the wedding invitation. "I wanted you to be the first to know." She looked at the invitation, and I watched her face crumble as she realized what it meant. I was moving on. I was happy. I was building a new life with someone who wouldn't lie to me or cheat on me or steal from innocent people. "Tom, please don't do this. We could still—" "No, we couldn't. We never could. You made sure of that." I got back in my car and drove away, leaving Rachel standing in the parking lot holding the invitation to my new life. 6 months later, Sarah and I got married in a small ceremony at the library where she worked. Pete was my best man. Marcy came to the reception and told stories about some of her more interesting cases. It was perfect, small, honest, and real. Rachel didn't show up, which was exactly what I'd hoped for. As I danced with my new wife, I thought about everything that had happened. Rachel had tried to destroy our marriage for money and excitement, but in the end, she'd given me something much more valuable: the chance to start over with someone who deserved my trust. The last I heard, Rachel was still living with her parents, still working at the call center, still paying restitution to the people she'd scammed. She'd be doing that for another 8 years. Sean Miller was still in federal prison and wouldn't be eligible for parole for another 3 years. Jess was still in California, working at a coffee shop and posting bitter things about men on social media. And me? I was married to a wonderful woman, living in the house I'd worked hard to keep, and sleeping soundly every night knowing that everyone had gotten exactly what they deserved. Justice isn't always swift, but when it finally comes, it's beautiful.